So we're back with another floor video, sort of, but there's a little more to this video. As you can see, I'm drilling the body mounts. Obviously I have to go up through from the bottom up and through the sheet metal because, you know, obviously I'm not going to try to guess where the hole's going to be, but I had to go through like 4 layers of, you know, square tubing, and it was, I got the wrong bolts 3 times. I had to make 3 trips. There was no way I imagined them being that long, but for these 2, they were extremely long. But I wanted to, you know, put all new bolts and you know, grade 8 bolts and nuts throughout the whole car, because why not? It's doesn't cost a lot, and you have that extra assurance there. And yeah, I had to try to use a crowbar and get up in there to put the bushings in there, but I managed. So with all the bushings and the bolts in place, it felt nice to actually have it back together. You know, the cars, you know, it hadn't had bolts in it for so long that, you know, being underneath it was a little sketchy at times if you had it lifted up really high. But I knew it wasn't really going anywhere, but you never know. So that's done, and that was kind of a big thing on my list, that I was excited to get the floor in just so I could knock that out and see how that all went. But yeah, I didn't forget about these front guys either. Yeah, there's a lot of, you know, I added 4 body mounts as well. Well, I added 2 that weren't there, and then I fixed 2 that were there that were just really far gone. So I mean, there's more than I think are really necessary, but, you know, I don't think it hurts to have extra ones. So I continued on the floor because, as you guys know, the floor is not done yet, but I just kind of been picking at it. And with the floor being, you know, all these welds, you know, they all need to be grinded down, because even with Dynamat and everything put over them, and, you know, carpeting, you're still gonna have bubbles. You know, you're gonna be able to fill those bumps in there and see them. Some of them I can't really do anything about. Like, you'll see later on in the video, I have to use some self tappers in some areas, and they're gonna show. I'm gonna do my best to try to hide them, but it is what it is, man. I mean, this isn't, like I say, and I think every single video, like, this isn't some luxury car. Like, this isn't a Cadillac. Even if it was, I probably still would do it the same way. I don't really care. But this is a gasser. It's a hot rod. It's not going to be, if there's a little bit of a bump from a screw head sticking out from the floor, I'm not gonna, you know, cry myself to sleep over it. But I am still, like, with that being said, I'm still trying to do a nice job. Like, I'm not half-assing it and just blaming everything on, oh, it's just a gasser, who cares. I'm trying to thoroughly do this and do it, you know, as strong as possible and as nice as possible. But there are just some things that I can't help, and I'm just doing my best at, you know. But there's an area up in the toe kick. Well, before we get to that, this is all I do just to fill in these little areas, you know. Like, I just cut a little piece out for that crack, and I just burn it in, man. Like, I got it to fit in there, sorta. And then, you know, I I just go to work on it, and that's all I really need to do. And then I'll grind it down and, you know, put some seam sealer on there, you know, around all of this, and I'll probably do some after the seam sealer. I'll probably do some body fill, you know, and try to really smooth it out. But like I said, for the most part, if it's not, it doesn't need to be perfect. I can live with it. What I was saying though is I had this toe kick when I first bought this car. I don't know if I showed it in any of the previous episodes or not. I don't think I did. But when I first bought the car, not when I first bought it, but when I first decided to cut the floors out, when Ricky and I were cutting the floors out, and I think the second or third, like the third episode, I bought this toe kick because I thought that it would be the right thing to do. Not thinking that this had a, you know, 350 in it. It was already upgraded to a 350. It didn't have the original inline 6 in it. So the toe kick was already all changed and everything, and I paid $350 for this toe kick, like an original toe kick for this car. And it made me sick thinking like, oh my god. Like it sat in the corner of my garage for the past like 7 months or so, or 6 or 7 months, 8 months, and I just figured like, well, eventually I'll post on eBay or something, like I'll sell it, but I'm never gonna get $350 for it, even though it is brand new. So today, it's funny I mentioned Ricky, but he came over and was just like, you know, we were standing in the garage kind of bullshitting, and he looked in there and he was like, oh man, he's like, why don't you use that toe kick? Because I still had, if you remember, I had those couple of, you know, I had like a small like 10-inch area still left that was opened up, and I was just gonna put, you know, some sheet metal up there. And I told him, I was like, you know, I don't really need to waste it because I have the whole center, and I really don't. It would only be covering a small area, and that was that. But then after he left, I kind of got to thinking, and I was like, you know, why don't I use it? And I can kind of form it the way I want it. You know, I'll use a hammer and I'll form it down. You know, I'll bend it down around the bends that I need it, and I'll burn it in there, and it'll just be, you know, twice as strong, you know, because that webbing and everything that's in the front, you know, below the firewall, it's a little, like, it's not that, like, the metal's not that thick. So this would just be this would just add a little more structure. It's obviously going to add more weight, but, like, I mean, I kind of lost that battle a long time ago. I don't really care at this point. Like, you know, my rocker panels are made out of 2x4x6, you know, rectangular steel tubing, and with added tubing. I mean, there's just so much structure that I added to this car that it's heavier than it should be, but that's okay with me. So that's kind of finished product on that. Not finished, but I do grind it down, but I don't think I show that because I just get to in the moment there. But this side is rotted. The other side had no rot on that side. Like, it was, I didn't need to do what I'm about to do on the other side. So I just, you know, cut a piece out, and, you know, trace it on paper, and then I burn it in. And the crack along the bottom was a little long, or it was wider on one side, so I just added another little piece of scrap. I'm just gonna burn it in, man. I mean, I know that this is very amateur looking, and it's because I'm an amateur. I'm not, you know, this is my first time. I'm just burning things in, and I'm just adding structure everywhere I can. Anywhere where there's a hole, I'm patching it, and this is just kind of how I'm going about it. And then I'm gonna squirt, you know, seam sealer and all these along every edge, and but I don't want to have cracks. I don't want to have open areas. I don't want to use seam sealer in open areas. I'm going to weld those areas first, and then I'll, add the seam sealer. But so anyway, I end up using the toe kick, and you'll see in a few minutes. I think it's actually right after this scene is where I start with that, because I'm still really undecided about what I'm going to do about the rear seats. I was going to add that into this video. I kind of took a poll with my family today. I asked my wife and I asked my kids, like, hey, should I add a back seat to this car? Because either way, whether I add the back seats, it's easy, and if I don't, it's easy. Like, I can either cover that area up with a piece of sheet metal and burn it in, or I can just burn into 2 small pieces of sheet metal and where the seats sink in and go. But after, and the family basically said that they don't care. I don't think, like, this isn't going to be a family vehicle, but I didn't know, I thought, like, maybe I'll throw someone in the back here and there. Like, what if someone wants to take a ride? But and the looks of having a back seat, I like the looks of having a back seat. Like, I don't necessarily like the look of a race car. I love this car, and I love the way it looks, and I kind of wanted to make the interior kind of look inviting. I didn't want it to look like a steel trap on the inside. So I really considered doing the back seat. I was leaning more towards the back seat, but then when I looked at it, there's like I guess I could still do it, but the way it sits right now, the center, there's a piece that goes in between the seats that's kind of holding the whole deal together. I can't even describe it. I'll have to show you in the next video, but it's like almost rotted through, and so it's going to need to be cut out. And if I do go with back seats, it's either going to have to be rebraced completely. I'm going to have to, like, refabricate that whole back area, or I could just real simply, put a piece of sheet metal over top of it and call it a day, and reduce a little more weight, and just eliminate a back seat altogether. But I'm still very, I'm undecided about it. I get a little ridiculous with like this area, and I couldn't see, like, what the camera's seeing. I couldn't see that view. A, it was nighttime, and B, I was kind of in front of, I was at like a forward angle, so I couldn't really see as good as what the camera view is of what I was welding. I was just going for it. But I really wanted to add some structure to this corner. I think I might have went a little overboard, and it probably wasn't necessary, but yeah, I'm still going. I really didn't need to go this far with it. Now that I'm watching it, it's like, all right, man, just wrap it up here. All right, I think that's it. Really wish I would have showed, it grinded down, because it looks a lot nicer. And then I believe I paint it as well. Oh yeah, I forgot to tack this little area there. And if you can tell that I'm holding, I'm welding really far away, and that wasn't on purpose. That was just because I was like basically laying down and couldn't really see what I was doing too well. I just threw a coat of paint over this stuff so that it wouldn't rust, because God knows, how long it's going to be until I get to finishing it. So there's the toe kick, and as you can see, it doesn't look like it's going to fit at all, and that's because this whole front was kind of remodified. That doesn't make any sense. It was modified for the V8 to go in there, and it was kind of already done for me, but like I said, I felt like it couldn't hurt to add structure. And as you can see while I'm filming and beating it into the shape it needs to be, my phone kind of took a dive. No big deal. This fantastic. So you can see I formed it to where it needs to go. I had to make 2 relief cuts in it to get it to bend down the way I wanted, because that little bit of a gap was really causing it to lift. And then a lot of self tappers in there just to hold it in place until I burn it in. But it worked out great, and I'm really glad that I utilized it, because it would have just been a waste of $350. It still kind of makes me sick because I didn't need it. But it is what it is, man. I mean, this is my first time. This is my first rodeo, so I'm gonna make some mistakes. And if the biggest mistake I make is a $350 one, I mean, I guess so be it. I cut out these little, I made a template and I cut these out. That's just sitting in there. It gets a little better when I actually burn it in. It doesn't have that gap in it, but yeah, I didn't show myself burning it in either one of them, but there they are. And I'm going to throw a couple more self tappers up in there, because why not? And then I'm going to burn it in even more. But that's the progress that I made in the past day. So I think I'm going to see these back seats. That little bridge that goes in between the holes there is rotted, so I don't know. I might have to rebrace that whole thing, but you'll find out in the next episode. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.